this is Nita Q, and this is our second episode of Landing Your Career at Every Age. So, this episode, we're going to dive into landing career in your 20s. Last week, I briefly touched upon, when you are applying for jobs, to make sure that you read that job description. That is so very, very important. Make sure that you read those minimum qualifications. Make sure that your resume and your cover letter match that, right? So now we're going to get into some other stuff, right? So as I was thinking of how I was going to start this video, I was thinking about the game of life, right? Me and my siblings used to play that endlessly. And you had the decision, for those that haven't played the game of life, you had the decision to either um you start off, you either go to college or you skip college and you go straight to the career. So the cards for choosing a career would be like your typical traditional roles, like the lawyer, the doctor, things of that sort. And then for the career would be the artist, the mover. I'm just making up stuff because I don't remember what it is, but basically would be more creative things for career. And then like as traditional roles in college. But we know that that's not really the case, right? We know that whether you choose to go the education route, or whether you choose to go the trade route, or just jump into your career, that you can pretty much go either way, for colleges, like I don't know if our institute is still College of Art Institute is still up there, but there are creative colleges and things of that sort. So my point is, it is not like a big dire need to go to college these days, right? Like when in my age, it was like you go to college, you go to the military, and that's not really the case these days. Now you have different um, websites like Coursera, Cousera, where you could just take different courses. Or now there's a lot of certification programs, where you don't have to actually go the traditional education route, get the certification, and you can land that job. So there are so many ways now to land that job. So I'm not going to hone in on, well, if you were in college, if you weren't, but I am going to just differentiate a little bit when I'm just discussing like entering the workforce. So if you did go to college, or if you didn't go to college, networking is important. And networking starts in high school, right? But I don't know if they press networking in high school as much as they do in college. There were a lot of things that I wished that I had known when I was attending college. Things of sort of like getting a fellowship. When I went for my MBA, I paid for that. Like I didn't know there was a such thing as a fellowship, where if you're continuing your education, you would be a TA and RA, and they would pay your tuition, and you would get a little stipend to make it along the way. Things of that sort I wasn't educated on, and it's only because I didn't network, I didn't research. So I say all that to say, network and research. And when you have graduated from college, the networking doesn't stop. When you have graduated from high school, the networking doesn't stop. That's when the networking continues on. If you had a teacher in high school or college, whatever, and they were your favorite teacher, keep up with them. Get their contact information. They'll be great for a reference, because your work history is very short. If your work history is short, because I started working at 14, but a lot of people really don't start working until like they're 18, 19, 20, so make sure you have a reference there. If you had a course where you just aced, and whatever your focus was when you were in school, put that on your resume. At this point, you are creating a story, because you don't have, quote unquote, the work experience, but you have experience in the field that you're going for. You just have to transfer those skills, like I talked about in the first episode. So anyway, so what do you mean by networking outside of school? Besides your favorite instructor or teacher, go into your field. Like for instance, I'm in HR, right? So it's really important for me to make sure that I am around HR professionals and I network with HR professionals. There are so many groups. You got the HRCI. I'm a part of SHRM, which is Society of Human Resource Management, and and I get to network and I get to continue to keep up like on the trends and what's up and coming in my field. And you can do that too. You have social media, let it work to your advantage. You have LinkedIn, you can reach out to people through Instagram. If you feel like you see a professional mentor in any of these people, reach out to them, because you never know, they could say yes. Sometimes we're afraid to really step out and talk to strangers, or we're intimidated because we don't have the experience. And the worst thing that a person can say is no, right? And there are billions of people out here. So if you can't get that person as a personal mentor, you can find someone else. Another source of networking are Facebook groups. Facebook groups. There are a million Facebook groups for like-minded careers. Once again, there's an HR one. So if you are an accountant, if you're a creative, there are so many Facebook groups out there. And you can always go to Google and look for networking in your field. And we got ChatGPT that'll probably guide you to some people or groups. So every little bit helps. If you're interested in not getting paid, which is what this video is not about, you do have internships, but you also have externships. And this is all when you're starting. Volunteer is very important, especially at this age. Volunteer. If you can't get into your field, see if while you're working another job or just waiting for to land that career, volunteer into things that are related to your field. So networking is so many different things. It's basically just connecting with like-minded people and learning that information, absorbing that information. And meanwhile, while you're learning more about your field, build your story. Build your story. Even in starting, I have to just use myself, even in starting in HR, my story began when I was a receptionist at 14. That's customer service. In order to be in HR, you have to know how to communicate with people. So basically, I've been communicating and building my professional communication skills since I was 14 years old. That's a transferable skill. So that's what I mean by that. Don't downplay it. I remember I was talking to my cousin. She's like, well, I just was cashier at McDonald's. You weren't just a cashier at McDonald's. You handled money, customer service, you multitask, and you are able to sustain in a fast-paced, stressful environment. And you can work within a team. Like all of those things come out of working at McDonald's. So that's what I'm saying. Like just really think about what you've done in school. If you were a part of a group, or if you were a part of anything, make sure that you build your story off that. Because when you're interviewing, I think sometimes we get one of the fact, and I believe when I when I interview, you always think, well, I'm not qualified, so I don't know if if I have enough experience. No, hey, think of it like this. You've auditioned with your resume. You've been picked. So at this point, they're just seeing if you're a good fit for that company. Don't be nervous, because if you weren't qualified, they wouldn't have called you back. So the fact that you're in the interview process is already a highlight of that they want you. At this point, you're just selling you. You're selling your personality, because your skills were already sold when they reached out to you via your interview. All right, so okay, you get the interview, it went great. Then you get another call. You get to go to the next level. Maybe you meet the teammates. Then the next level, maybe you meet the management team, and then all of a sudden, nothing. You don't hear anything back. And it's ghosting, just like it is in the personal realm, it is in a professional realm. It's ghosting, right? So what do you do when you feel that you're being ghosted? Number one, don't jump to the conclusions and think that you're being ghosted. You have to remember that you're not the only applicant. You're not the only interview. And most companies, which I believe all companies should let you know, we have such and such more candidates that we have to go through, and we'll be sure to make you know. We'll be sure to email you and let you know by such and such date. So if you're given a such and such date, don't panic until the such and such date. So if 2-3 days pass, or a week from the deadline that was given to you, it is nothing wrong with sending an email, checking status, seeing what's going on. If they do respond, great. If they don't, still don't panic. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's really like very unprofessional for companies not to contact you, whether they're choosing to move forward with you or not. But a lot of companies do that, and here's why. Number one, it's 50 million applicants, and they dropped the ball, and there's probably no process put in place to reach out to people that are not being chosen for the job, and that doesn't make it right. That's just part of some companies. Another one is the position might have been eliminated. They might have changed their mind, and so and moved forward and forgot to reach out to the applicants and and let them know. And really, this is because here's the thing: an interview go both ways, right? Because just because you're chosen for the interview doesn't mean it is right for you either, right? So if you feel like if this company doesn't even have the heart or the organization to communicate to you whether they have you on limbo, do you really want to be there anyway? Number one. Number two, number two, it's like some people do leave reviews because they don't like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't like that at all. And so you can leave a review. Yeah, secondly, you can leave a review and say, the communication, blah, 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 blah. The only downfall for doing things like that is if they are still holding your application for a similar position, that might blow your chance. So I'm not too keen on jumping in and down in the company off of one expression, but that is a very bad first impression as far as communication if you don't get a response back. But don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. I know this might have been the career of your dreams, the job of your dreams, the company of your dreams, but once again, there are other companies out there. And if you're just steady wanting to get into this company, I'm pretty sure they have different um jobs available. I wanted to get into a university so bad. So what I do is I filtered out all the all of the jobs that I knew that I was qualified for, and I went for it. I just started, like if I don't get picked for this one, maybe I'll get picked for that one. If I don't get picked for this, and I did end up in a position. If they were all HR positions. Also, when you are starting out, don't think that you're not valuable. Don't think that you can't negotiate a salary. Now, I'm getting off subject, but I want to talk about this. I talked about earlier researching and how research is important, looking at the job description, looking at the minimum requirements, but also research the company. Research the company. Don't just jump for a job because you need a job. And I know that's easier said than done, but here's the thing: you don't want to get into a job where you're unhappy, it doesn't align with your goals. You don't want that at all. And maybe you're like, Renita, I need money now. Fine. You could get a starter job while looking for another job. But still, if you're trying to land a career is specific, a career is intentional. And if that's what you're going for, baby, go for it. You know what I'm saying? So research the company, make sure it aligns with your personality, make sure it aligns with your value, with your values. You wouldn't want to work at a religion-based company if you're not religious, you know what I'm saying, or vice versa, so you have to really like make sure that you're comfortable where you're at. You read the reviews of the company, you make sure that even the job aligns with where you're going or what you're trying to do. And another thing that's important that people forget to do is this researching is not just to for you to see if it's a good fit. It's also for you to come up with some questions to ask your interviewer. Yes, ask your interviewer. When you ask questions in an interview, that shows that you did your due diligence. That shows that you researched and you're not just, hitting a button, submit, 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 and you're intentionally going after this job. It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. And even if you don't come in with questions, even if they, most companies, when you start an interview, they will start telling you about the company. Keep some of that in mind. You can take a paper and a pad and just write it down. I always bring water too, because sometimes when you're talking so much or when you need like a minute to think of an answer, the best break is a water break. You just get your, it wouldn't be this water bottle, but you get a little glass and they say, Renita, so such and such, such and such. It gives me a minute to pause and think. Even though that's a second, that is a second that I get to collect my thoughts. See how my voice even slowed down after that? It's a nice little trick for when you're feeling anxious, or if it's like one of those jobs like tell me your weaknesses or tell me why you want to leave the job and you just don't know, what to say and how to navigate. So I feel like I had a set list, but I feel like it went all over the place. But hopefully, you got some information out of this. So yeah, don't count yourself out because you're in your 20s. The best thing is you are a sponge. You can absorb and absorb and absorb. This is not the moment where you get to puff up and think you know everything, because maybe you studied this in college for 4 years, or maybe you went to YouTube University, or however, whatever field you're in, and you're just like, yes, I know this. Even if you've been working at this as a teenager, never go into a field as a novice pretending to be an expert. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not a good look. You want to look like you listen. You want to look like you absorb information. Yes, you're bringing things to the table, but you have to remember, when you're new at a career, um humility goes a long way. It goes a long way. And that does not mean a boss can just come in and say whatever they want to you. That's not what I mean by humility. Humility is like learning. And even if you want to, not challenging your leader every time they're saying something that you might not agree with, or a method that you don't understand, because you have to remember that your supervisor, manager, whatever, has been doing this job way longer than you. Probably they have been at this job the same amount of years that you've been here on earth. So make sure that you open your ears before you open your mouth. And you always want to leave a good impression too. I always tell people younger than me that you always want to leave a good impression. I'm not saying that the workplace is always safe and it's not toxic. I'm not going there. But what I'm saying is, if you could be as professional as possible when handling that situation, it's how you handle the hard situations that is impressive. It's not saying that you can avoid hard situations. It's how you respond to those situations. If there's something that you don't like, it's how you communicate something that you don't like, and you don't want to start off on the wrong foot. You want to make sure you're respectful. You still have to respect your boundaries, and you still have to make sure that your piece is in place. But you also don't need to be a person running havoc in a company as well. No company is perfect. No company is perfect, and this is why they need people there to help make the job or the position or the company more efficient. So you are there to add to the company. So if you see that there's something wrong, instead of complaining to coworkers and it gets back to your boss, maybe figure out a plan in a way where things can be better and things can be more efficient. And if they listen, that's great. And if they don't, then maybe that's just not the place for you. So anyway, I hope that you have gotten some tidbits in letting your career in your 20s. If there's something that I missed and you have a question, please feel free to contact me. You can leave the question in the comments, or you can email me at info@beyourownkind.com. And I would love to hear any thoughts or any questions that you may have. And good luck. Good luck. I would love to hear if any of my advice helped you in an interview or help you land your job. That would actually make my day. So even in the professional realm, you own your difference. You be yourself. You are valuable. You are valuable. And I can't wait to hear about how much value that you have added to that company. And until next time, until next week, when we are getting into applicants in their 30s and their 40s, be sure, if you know somebody in their 30s and their 40s, to let them know about that, because we're going to talk about updating in your 30s and your 40s. So you've been on the job longer, 10, 15 years. What do you do then? So anyway, I don't want to start that video. So anyway, have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.